So hi Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for sitting down. Just before we get into this new exciting project, do you just want to give us a quick 30-second background about, how you got to starting this up?
Yeah, so I've been working in people, talent, and culture in technology and science-driven businesses for over 20 years now, and I've been spending a lot of time trying to understand, well, what are the things that make high-performing companies tick? What are the things that they do that make them high-performing? And through that, we've come up with a number of tools and methodologies and things that we've seen are common to those businesses. And combining that with sort of the advancing power of AI has led us to building Versapia, which is what we're working on right now.
Yeah, well, there I was trying to keep it all secret, and of course, it's on the screen behind us. So Versapia. So what is Versapia? And am I saying it right?
You are saying it right, yeah. So Versapia is an operating system essentially for high performance culture that's powered by AI. There's a custom GPT at the core of it that we've trained on all of our methodology. It essentially helps companies that are doing new, difficult things to build high performance teams and cultures in a way that characterizes the kind of company they want to build, but allows them to do it in a more effective, more repeatable way.
Oh, okay, cool. So you've sort of answered my next question a little bit, but why are you building it? What space do you think it fits in?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of reasons. So the first is that too many companies are failing, and especially ones that are doing difficult things. And it should be, there's ideas everywhere, there's good ideas everywhere, and the amount of disruption we're seeing in the world is increasing the number of ideas and opportunities that are available. And, with all the knowledge and tools that we now have available, it should be easier than ever to start and build a business that really has an impact on the world. But that's not what we're seeing, that's not what's happening. And of course, there's various reasons for that, but I think one of the core reasons is that people aren't building great companies around the technology, the idea that they have. And central to that is building great teams and building impactful, effective cultures. So, we feel that by helping companies to do that, they'll be able to bring their ideas to the world more effectively. The other factor is that there's been this kind of explosion of what they call HR tech over the last 5 or 6 years, particularly. And some of it's really, really good at what it does. But I've found that a lot of it seems to be designed for more established companies or bigger companies that already have a really clear sense of what their culture is, that it's well defined, well articulated. And the reality is in smaller businesses or rapidly growing businesses, that's often not the case. But there's not much out there that will really help leaders to actually define and describe and evolve their culture and implement their culture in a way that drives their performance. So this is the gap that we see Versapia sitting in. And the work that we've been doing before Versapia was all on this theme as well, but it was manual consulting work. The problem with manual consulting work is that it's manual, so it takes a long time. Therefore, it's typically expensive because you need people who know what they're doing to do it. And it's only so scalable. You can only do it for so many companies at a time. The reason it's had to be manual for a long time is that every company is different. And so you have to tailor what you're doing to each individual organization. Up until quite recently, there's not really been an alternative to that. But with the recent advances in AI and LLMs in particular, you now have tools that are able to, if you train them in the right way, to customize the work that you're doing to individual organizations. So those are all the things that have really come together to lead to us building this platform, this company.
So you mentioned, the word culture popped up there quite a lot. And I think, it's one of those words that it is a bit of a buzzword. There's a lot of, you see it a lot on LinkedIn and things. But, what difference does culture really make to companies?
Yeah. I mean, all the difference in the world. And I will qualify a little bit. I think if you look at the fact that most companies fail, right? First of all, if you then look at the fact that some companies are successful and successful repeatedly, it makes sense to try and figure out, well, what are those companies doing that makes them successful over and over again? And we've spent years studying this, and what we've found is that there is a pattern. The most successful companies often don't have the best technology or the best idea or the most advanced research. Sometimes they do, but often they don't. They definitely don't face less challenges. In fact, as they grow and become more successful, it's usually more challenges. There are several factors that go into that success, but one of the common themes that we've seen is that the companies that succeed have teams and environments that enable them to overcome setbacks that they face and to actually deliver on the ideas that they have. And that's all down to culture. That's all down to the people and culture that you have in your business. When you don't pay attention to culture, you end up with misalignment, miscommunication. That all leads to delays, which can lead to difficulty raising money, winning customers. The performance of your business really suffers. Disengagement is a real issue across the world, across employers around the world at the moment. And disengagement costs a huge amount of money in productivity and absence and all those kinds of things. So the negative impact of culture is really, really tangible in terms of retention, in terms of all those things that impact your performance. But when companies get culture right, there are two fundamental things that happen. The people in their business become really engaged with what they're doing. And when people are engaged, they apply a lot more discretionary effort. And discretionary effort is particularly important. It's important for every business, but it's particularly important for companies that are doing something novel or difficult. Because when you encounter a technical problem, let's say, you need your people to be thinking about those things when they're out on their bike or having dinner with their friends or in the shower is the classic one, right? Because that's when they come up with ideas. It's not when they're chained to their desk. If they're not fully engaged, then they won't be thinking about those things. But it also drives retention. And retention's key in technical work and expert-led work, which requires a high level of knowledge, not just of the subject, but of the specific product, research program, whatever it might be. When you lose that knowledge, especially in a small company or a fast-growing company, you can't replace it easily. In large organizations, there's usually redundancy of skill and knowledge for exactly that reason, because it creates more security. But in small companies, that's not the case. So there's those two things that really then drive performance. The other thing is that with a really clear culture in place that's really well defined and everybody understands it, you attract and secure the right people in the first place. And so every person you bring in not only helps you to deliver what you need to deliver, but they enhance the culture and move the culture forward. So culture compounds when you do that, and it gets better and better and better over time. So essentially, the difference that culture really makes to companies is it actually drives their performance and enables them to deliver when things get difficult, particularly.
Yeah. Oh, so actually, if you're, in biotech and you love the biotech side of it, actually overlooking the culture side can be quite detrimental by the sounds of it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a mistake that we see founders and leaders making all the time, is that they, in biotech, in technology, in any innovation-driven company, really, often the people who start the businesses and lead the businesses are technologists in themselves, or they're experts in the subject matter. And so the predisposition that they have then is that will be enough to make the company successful. If they have the best tech or the best research or the best idea, that's going to make the company successful. The reality is that's usually not the case. Those with the best idea don't always win, unfortunately. It's the execution of that idea that's really key.
So it can be something that could blindside a founder.
100%.
Yeah. So we've sort of touched upon it a little bit, but who is this aimed for? I mean, is this the smaller sort of tech company or the larger ones who would benefit?
Yeah, so I think the principles that Versapia operates on could really apply to any organization, but the kind of companies that we really have in mind when we're building it are science-driven, technology-driven, and innovation-driven companies, and particularly those who are either early on in their journey, this sort of startup to scale-up level, or those who are going through some sort of transition. So that might be that they have raised some money and they're growing quickly, or it might be that they've got new leadership, or Maybe there's some more difficult transitions. Maybe they're having to restructure or whatever it might be. The other type of company that I think we'd see this working really well for is companies that are just having cultural challenges, so that people are underperforming, or they're not developing, or they're not able to attract the right people. But yeah, I think enterprise level companies where you've got thousands of people and years of history often have the fundamental cultural principles in place. How effectively they're implemented is a different question. But those companies that are sort of starting, scaling and growing, usually the sort of deliberateness of how they've designed the culture lags behind, and that's really who we've got in mind with this project.
So it sounds like it can help bring a little bit of certainty in a very uncertain world.
I hope so. Certainty, clarity, confidence that you actually are doing things that will make a difference. One of the challenges with culture is that it touches everything, so it can be kind of intangible, right? And it's hard to know when you're doing the right thing or what the right thing to do is. And that's very much what this tool is about giving you insight, giving you, I guess, embedded knowledge and wisdom of how to change culture, how to evolve culture, combined with metrics that will let you see the impact of what you're doing. So yeah, certainty, clarity, confidence, all those things. Yeah.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts a little bit without giving away too many secrets. Yeah. But how does it work?
So at the heart of Versapia is a custom GPT called Verity. And Verity's been trained on all of our methodology around how you develop high performance culture, as well as, lots of other sources externally. So to start with, what Verity does is comes in and learns about your company. So she will help to diagnose where your culture is today, where the strengths are, where the gaps are, and what are the things that you need to focus on. She'll help to design a plan that is tailored to your organization, that focuses on usually the 2 or 3 key priorities that are really going to move the needle. There are 7 elements to the methodology that we use, but if you try and do things on all of them, it's too much friction, there's too much disruption, tends not to work. So you've got to pick the things that are highest priority. And then Verity will help you deliver. And the way Verity helps you deliver is in 2 forms. So if you're the person who owns the culture of the company, so that might be the CEO, you might be the chief people officer, you might be the head of operations, but you're the owner of the culture at an executive level. Then Verity will help you, as we say, diagnose and design the plan to evolve the culture. Also help you find the metrics that will see how effective you're being. We'll give you communication plans and workshop outlines and training programs and all that kind of thing that will help you embed what you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of on-demand training in the platform that will teach you how to do these things as well. And it's also there as a thought partner, as someone you can talk to, get ideas, bounce ideas off, that kind of stuff. And it's all in a very custom way. As much as Verity will create a strategy for you, you can give her feedback and she will adjust it on the fly. Whereas consultants would do that but take a couple of days, she can do it in 3.5 seconds. And then when you've started to deliver your cultural development plan, it never stands still. You've got to iterate and evolve it. And so she will stay by your side as you do that. In terms of the delivery, the other side of the platform is really interesting. So the other side of the platform is for every manager and leader in your business. And essentially for those people, Verity becomes an AI coach who is aligned to the culture that you're trying to build. So she understands what the environment is you're trying to create. And she will coach managers on, having difficult conversations, or guide them through interview processes, or teach them how to do better one-to-ones. So, what we're not trying to do is automate culture or replace leadership. We're trying to enhance the leadership of your business so that you can be more effective in implementing the culture that's going to drive your success.
So that sounds cool. I mean, obviously AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say there's 2 sort of tribes. There are the people that are wholly embracing it. There are other people who are a bit nervous about bringing it into their companies. I'm probably on the fence. I'll be honest. I use AI for some stuff, and there's other parts of it that I don't enjoy. I guess leaders, one of the biggest fears they might have is that you're trying to automate culture, replace humans, take away that humanity of culture. So if I'm one of those founders of a company, what would you be saying to me to ease my mind?
Yeah, first of all, totally get it, right? It's really hard to get your head around what this technology can do, what it can be used for, what it should be used for, all this kind of stuff. I think, it's key to understand that it's here. People are using it. People are using it increasingly. Like, I know I tell ChatGPT a lot more than I used to. And if you don't take advantage of these tools, then your competition will. But no, we're not trying to automate culture or replace leaders. I think culture is inherently about people and about the spaces between people and how they interact and all that kind of stuff. If your entire company was run by AI, you wouldn't need to think about culture because it would just get things done. Or then, although maybe there's then a more complex version of culture that, that needs to happen to make agents more effective, but we won't get into that. What we're aiming to do with Versapia is make the people who lead your business more effective in building better relationships with their team, in having better conversations, in helping the people in their teams to perform better and grow and develop and drive your company forward. So people have different levels of comfort with this technology, but ignoring it or resisting it is not the right way to go. The reality is, I think probably 5 years from now, definitely 10 years from now, maybe sooner than any of that, there will be a handful of AIs that sit at the center of every company, who see everything, who interpret everything, who analyze and communicate everything from different perspectives. Most companies are not ready for that just yet. The capability is probably almost there, but most companies are not ready for that yet. And I don't think we have to be at that stage. But that's where we're going. And the companies that embrace that will be more effective. The truth is that Amazon's listening to everything anyway. So this is already happening, but we've kind of got used to that. And so we conveniently forget it. But no, this is all about enabling people to be more effective in supporting, leading, developing other people.
Oh, cool. So actually, it sounds. I mean, for me, I'm firmly in that AI is a tool if it helps make something quicker. So you're not actually taking away that human element. It's just better preparing the humans for the human conversations.
Exactly. Yeah, making those interactions more effective. If you've ever managed people, then you know that sometimes you go into a conversation, you haven't fully prepared for it, you haven't fully thought it through, or something happens that you didn't expect. How much better would it be if you've had a session with your AI coach for 10 minutes that's taught you through what you should be thinking about? Maybe you've run a couple of role plays with it in a very safe, controlled way. You're much more ready for that conversation. And especially the tough conversations, they really count in terms of team building, performance, all that kind of stuff. So if you can be better at those interactions, then you probably should try to be.
Perfect. And then, I guess sort of a little tangent from that is data, and people's personal data. And obviously this tool is going to be, addressing some sensitive topics. I mean, on a personal level, but also, I guess, on a company-wide level.
Yeah.
I mean, how does it work around that confidentiality and data and stuff?
Yeah, so no, it's absolutely important question. And I think there's different levels that you have to think about privacy and security on with something like this. So the sort of most basic level is, if you have an AI-powered coach for managers and leaders, well, you want those people to be as open and honest with that coach as possible so it can give them the best guidance. So there needs to be a really clear layer of confidentiality between the coaching conversations they're having and what the primary user, the leadership team, whoever it might be, is given insight into. And so, there's a real clear need for confidentiality there, which we've built into the system. I think then there's also GDPR elements to that, because you're talking about personal information. Again, we've built the system to be GDPR compliant. You then go up to sort of the company level, and there's IP things that you need to think about. So, at no point would any confidential IP be shared across the system or with us or with anybody else. I think then it's also about, some companies will want even greater security or confidentiality or isolation from the rest of the platform, perhaps for information security reasons or cybersecurity reasons. So I think the key way that we're approaching that is very similar to the way that OpenAI do with ChatGPT. There's sort of a version of the platform where nothing confidential is taken outside of your instance of it, but it trains the algorithm, and then you're able to benefit from other companies' experiences and what it's learned from other environments and things like that. And then there's a version of it where you're completely isolated, and the data that you're putting in it, even anonymized, doesn't train the platform. Either way, the data is anonymized, and there's nothing sort of proprietary that goes outside. But yeah, this is a primary priority for us. It's something that we think a lot about, and we're going to constantly be looking at ways to improve security as time goes on. But yes, we're building in that confidentiality, data protection, security, and sort of corporate IP layer as we build the program.
And of course, this is going to feel counterintuitive now that you've just talked about the importance of privacy and stuff. But I mean, obviously, one of the great things about having access to maybe other cultures and stuff is you can learn stuff from other companies.
Yeah.
Would there be a way of being able to take anonymous data and then learn from it to improve your own company?
Yeah, I think there is. I think companies would have to opt in for that to be to have access to that. But yeah, platforms like this are able to anonymize data, look at trends, and analyze them, and then relate them to other companies. So you could have, Verity could be looking at your company and go, oh, actually, this is very similar to these 10 companies over here culturally, or in terms of this challenge that they're facing. This was the most effective approach to solving that problem here. So let's implement that here. And as it encounters more situations, more challenges, more different types of environments, it's going to get smarter and smarter around those things. So yeah, absolutely. You've got to opt in to take part in it. You don't have to take part in that. But I personally think there's real value in learning from the experiences of others in a way that still remains tailored to your environment. Because, we've seen this over the years that we've been working on culture. There's really only so many issues to solve. There's different varieties of them, and you have to be aware of the nuance. But really, you do see the same things over and over again. So the more you can benefit from the experience of others, I think the more effective it becomes.
No, it sounds cool. Well, I am the only person in my company officially. I do have a few, sort of freelancers and stuff that I work for that I'm already thinking this would be perfect for me because I'm terrible with difficult conversations and stuff. So, so on a personal note, and for anybody watching, when will it be ready? When can we get our hands on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's some challenges with building products like this, but we're releasing a prototype very soon to a very limited audience just for testing. It's going to be very, very rough and ready, but to get feedback on it, that'll be out soon. And then the intention is to release the first commercially available version of Versapia by the end of 2025.
Perfect. And where can we find out more, and where can we get on the guest list to get the advanced version?
Yeah, so we do have a waiting list. If you're watching this on the website, then you're already in the right place. If you're watching it somewhere else, then head to our website. It's www.versapia.ai. And there's a waiting list that you can join. There's a form to fill in, and you'll be given first access to updates and features and things like that. What we'll also do is, while you're waiting for the platform, we're going to share a ton of tools and insights and opinions and things you can use to develop your culture, to give you more sort of context around the interface of people and technology, of AI and company culture and business and entrepreneurship, as well as some exclusive events and things that we're going to be doing as well. So come down to the website and come and register.
Perfect. It sounds great. Thanks for your time, Tom. And look forward to seeing it released later this year.
Me too. Cheers.